So on this one, I'm going to do a little bit of a move towards not quite politics, but I want to talk about some things, how we got here. And that is inherently political in some ways. A lot of people will kind of look back at Trump being the first step in to the path that we've taken. And I would argue it is much earlier than that. A lot of this stuff has always been in the socio-political landscape of the United States. Some of it has gotten much worse recently, but there has been radio hosts that are just truly awful people. There's a very good podcast called Behind the Bastards. If you want to dive into some of the past horrible people, there's all kinds of in history, Father Coughlin, and there's a ton in the very far history. But for the place that we're at now, I think you would have to start somewhere around the 80s. That is where Reagan wanted to turn back the clock, and his version of politics was, we're going to give everything to rich people and you guys can feast on the leavings. I think that's shown pretty conclusively to not trickle down ever. It doesn't work. But that is I think where a lot of this started. So there's all kinds of topics that began with not just Reagan, but with that era. There was the moral majority people, the people that, the Christianity as a political force is not new, but that really, really made a jump back then. People would talk about crack babies and welfare queens and all sorts of ways of demonizing different minorities, poor people. Wealth inequality really jumped during that time. We started to diverge, like we kept being more productive as a society, and then the wages at the same time not keeping up and actually falling in ratio. There's things like the war on drugs, which was America has a drug problem. Let's go fight about it in South America and Central America. Let's depose some dictators and we'll support some rebels and maybe support some dictators and whatever. Like at no point did we ever say, hey, we have a drug problem. Why are people checking out of society? Why are people unhappy? Why do people want to kill themselves with drugs? I don't remember at any point people having those conversations. It was always seen as a degeneracy, as a failing, and it was the people growing the drugs and creating all the things, bringing them in. That was the people responsible, not the people that were taking the things to cope with, other issues. Like at that time, there were a bunch of Vietnam veterans that ended up being homeless and, they weren't taken care of like they needed to be. And then this is where a lot of stuff begins that I think people don't get credit for. There are roots that go earlier than this, but like rage baiting, that is not new. That was Rush Limbaugh's thing for ages. Like not just Alex Jones with the super crazy, but Rush Limbaugh with the political, constantly saying things that were outrageous in order to get attention. And it worked. If you say things that are horrible, people will pay attention. People will complain about you. And then there's an argument that's created. And then you become more and more famous off of being a dick. And that is where kind of the manosphere thing started too. You have these people that are at the same time claiming they're the alphas, the top tier, the elite, looking at them, you would not say that. But if you listen to them, that's what they say. Meanwhile, at the same time, whining and crying incessantly about being the victim and times are changing and I don't like the way things are changing for me personally, and I feel like something's being taken from me, like that I am entitled to something that other people are getting. That was really big in that movement, in that kind of Christian sort of some version of Christianity that popped up that thinks that, being rich is a good Christian virtue or something. I don't know. Their version of Christianity has puzzled me, having been raised in a church that was Christian. Like I don't understand it. Clearly they like rich people and authoritarians and telling people what to do, which doesn't ring any bells in the New Testament for me, but it sounds very much Old Testament. And then we come to the place where it becomes very political, and that was in people that I think get forgotten now. And for example, Newt Gingrich. And there's a handful of people in Congress that would do this thing after Congress is dismissed and the chamber is empty and, there's nobody around. They would make these speeches to an empty floor. Mr. Speaker, and then they would go into all this thing and they would be talking as if they're talking down to Democrats, and they're calling out some of their colleagues, and they're making a powerful moral stand. And it was to nobody. It was all theater. It was absolute nonsense. This was, I think, where our politics as a whole became a joke. It became theater more than anything. There's all these stories about Republicans and Democrats screaming at each other during a debate, and then they go out and get hammered at the same restaurant or bar. Like, it was seen as kind of a joke. And at the end of the day, we'll do a little bit for the working people. We'll definitely give some tax breaks to rich people, and definitely going to let corporations run wild. But you give the little people a little something every now and then. They've completely masked off with that now. Like, there is no sort of appeasement to just regular working people, just lies and theater constantly. And I think a lot of it comes from this era of when they started doing things that were completely theater. And I remember even at one point, he got called out for doing this. I think it was a Democratic congressperson, filmed took video or turned around the camera, because I think this was before cell phones were common. Turn around the camera so that you could see that the floor was empty, to which Gingrich and a bunch of these ding-dongs got mad because it was against the rules at the time to show the floor. And they're like, you can't do that. You can't show that there's nobody here when I'm making my stupid fake speeches. And to be able to say stuff like that with a straight face is the kind of veering off the path from politics as a form of like fighting for your constituents. And it's where we started fighting for lobbyists. And I think that is like the birth of people that are entirely performative. And now you have tons of them. You have Boebert and Green just left. Like, it's so many of these people they're in it for the clicks. And it's disturbing how many of them go into Congress fairly well off, because you probably need a fair chunk of money to get elected, because not only do you need to either farm the money from somebody else to run a campaign, or you need to have some of it yourself, or you need to be able to promise people that you're going to do enough to make it worth it to put you there. But there's a lot of people that do it because they want a career in scamming people out of money. And I don't know how else to say it. Like, you get put into Congress by a bunch of wealthy people. You pass a bunch of stuff that benefits those wealthy people. And then at the end of it, a lot of times the lobbyists that made things easy for you often will write the bills that you want to pass. These people come in and they're like, here's a big pile of money, or we're going to donate to a dark PAC somewhere. There's a big pile of money in this for you. This is the thing we want you to pass. We already wrote it. Here you go. Put your name on it. And it is so awful. But the worst part is a lot of those people will then retire from Congress, or if they lose or whatever, they go straight into these lobbying places. And since they know everybody, they can go straight back into Congress and be like, hey, buddy, I have a bunch of money I can throw around now. Do you want to do some stuff for me? And it's awful. And I don't know what changes that, other than, because it's not the grassroots thing. It's not the just, hey, let's just fund everybody through massive grassroots efforts. It's really, you have to get money out of politics. You have to make it reasonable for a normal working person to be able to get elected, because you want regular people. You want people that represent the people they're elected by. And you also want people that can't. You don't want people to be able to make a ton of money. You shouldn't be able to insider trade. You shouldn't be able to get kickbacks or promises of a sweet job afterwards. There's too many people that go into it reasonably wealthy and come out obscenely wealthy. And that's Democrats and Republicans. That's not just one or the other. But this society of like this manosphere, the Daily Wire type people, like the roots of this go all the way back to then. Like, it went from talk radio being like a simple, very cheap show to put on where you just blab at a mic for a while, and now doing it right here. But there is a direct line from that. And there is so much performative anger that they create legitimate anger in people. Like, a lot of those people, or a lot of the people that are doing political commentary, they're just playing a role. They're trying to find something that gets people angry. They're going out in front of it and basically just being the lead torchbearer. And that is incredibly frustrating. Like, this doesn't pay me anything. The only reason I'm doing it is because I'm hoping that there are people that are going to at least not feel like they're the only one that feels the way they do. Or if they want to dip their toe into politics and maybe understand the world a little bit better, I'm all for like explaining things. But there are people that do this, literally this, for millions of dollars. And that's wild. You have to wonder if those people actually believe the things that they say if they make that much money. Obviously not. Some of them probably, but most people, it has become very normal to play a character, not just in Congress, but online, in TV show, in this little weird internet TV shows people do. I think that's all where I'll leave that. This is, like I said, I think this modern era goes back to the 80s. You can make an argument for at any point. You definitely can make clear delineation as to things that go farther back. But this modern era, really, it didn't come with, Trump is a symptom of this movement. He's the useful idiot that many people call him. Like, he's the sock puppet with Stephen Miller with his hand up his butt. Like, it's scary, but it's also, this is a symptom of a problem that had been previous. He didn't create anything. He just riled up people that were already mad. And again, as I said in the last one, everybody's mad. Everybody's sad. Everybody's going through something because society as it exists is unsatisfying. So people just find what you're mad about, and then they write a book about it, and they fish for an audience, and then they create a community of people that are angry. All I can say is don't fall for that. Be very careful who you listen to. Be very careful who you follow. I follow a number of podcasts, but I am very choosy about it. And there's a ton that I have left. I used to listen to Young Turks. Can't listen to it anymore. They've gotten entirely ridiculous. In some ways, I've gone farther left. But in some ways, there's a lot of things that I'm kind of in the middle about. Like, I like guns. I don't want to take away guns. I think we should regulate them a lot more than we do. But that's not a far left position. Some of the ones I have are fairly far left. But my criticism is less about the politics of things and more about creating an environment for everyday people, for working people. If a billionaire's life is slightly more difficult, I don't care. I don't care how many jobs they create. It just doesn't matter to me. Like, there's 300 million people in this country that are just trying to get by. We should worry about them, not the less than single percentage point that is, millions and millions and millions of dollars, much less the billionaires. Like, a billionaire having, I don't know what it is now, hundreds of billions of dollars is a failure in the tax system. And people always say, well, but they'll move away and then we won't get their tax money. I don't care. I know it sucks for people, but I just don't care. I think something fundamentally needs to change, and it needs to change for average everyday working people, Republicans and Democrats. God forbid we have a third party, but like, the regular middle and lower class should be more important. That's my opinion. That was a quick dive into kind of a political subject that I might deal with. I don't want to go too long on these. I probably won't do like history lessons and deep dives or anything, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm probably going to do more of in the future. Hopefully people are into it. Otherwise, I don't know what I will do, but I'll see you on the next one.